Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Motor Machine, and in the first of 3 episodes sponsored by Autodoc here, we're going to be doing a speed oil change on the Range Rover. So let's make a start. So this is of course the second time that I've serviced the Range Rover on the YouTube channel at least. I've done it I think 3 times in total. The first time I did a complete service on the car, we did all the oils including the diffs and the transfer box. This time I'm just doing the engine oil, and I thought because I've already done that before once, let's see how fast we can do it this time. So I want to see if we can do this in the quickest possible time, and I'll put a timer up on the screen or something so you guys can see how long it's going to take. So we've taken the oil out. We've got the oil pump that we used last time. That's really good. You can suck the oil out of the Range Rover without having to undo any sump plugs or anything like that. And what we're putting back in again, Autodoc have supplied some lovely Valvoline SynPower 5W30, and this is a C1 oil which is recommended for Jaguar Land Rovers with DPFs crucially. If you've got a DPF on your Range Rover, you definitely need to have this type of C1 low SAPS oil, as I've mentioned before. And in terms of filters, we've got a Marla oil filter, and I might throw in a new air filter as well if it needs it. So yeah, let's make a start, shall we? First thing we're going to do, obviously, get the front cover off the engine, top cover, get that out of the way. And then this time, I actually have the correct socket for the oil filter housings. Last time I had to use some kind of a horrible bodging method. So this time I've got a nice big socket, 36mm for the oil filter housing, so we'll be sorted. So guys, what we're going to be using, 36mm socket and a way overkill ratchet here. The biggest, most overkill ratchet in the world. Yes. Zoom in a bit on that. So the most important thing about doing this first is because when you do this, it allows the oil to drain from the oil filter housing down into the sump, so we can get more oil out basically. It doesn't have to come up all the way, just enough to let the little plug drain on the inside of the housing. Okay, so whilst that drains, we're going to get our pump set up and ready. Now basically, this pipe, which is the biggest one that comes with it, is perfect for the 4.4 TDV8. So if you come in here and have a look at this. So just here is our little cap we need to pull off. I can remember how it comes off. Oh shit, just dropped that. But that's the that's the pipe that you're going to suck our oil from. I'll have to find that cap in a second. So I'll connect our pump to this tube. It's not quite long enough, this thing. We should get probably about 9 litres out of this in total, 9.5, 10 litres. So we just need to give this like a few pumps every now and again, and it will just slowly draw it out. It takes a few minutes just for it to get all the oil through this fairly small pipe, but it's doing all the work for us, so can't really complain. So once you've got pretty much all of the oil out, you'll start to hear it slurping at the bottom of the sump. So the pipe that this is connected to runs all the way to the very bottom of the sump. And once you've got all that oil out, you'll just start to hear it gurgling and slurping. So if you just listen to the inlet there, you'll just hear it starting to slurp, and we can carry on pumping a little bit longer just to make sure we get as much of that remnants out of the bottom there as we can. But that's pretty much going to be it for draining. See, pretty much mess free. I only got a little bit of spillage here where I took the pipe out. And this 10 litre pump here is almost the perfect size for the 4.4 TDV8. This is pretty much brimmed now, and obviously the engine's empty, so it works perfectly well. So, carefully disconnect that. And then we can put this to one side, and once we've put our new oil into the engine, we can then drain this into the old tubs, which works nicely. So next, let's finish taking off this oil filter. And there we go, there's our filter element in there and the filter housing itself. So this can just, it's always a bit stiff to pull out. Pull that out like that, try not to spray oil everywhere. Let's get our new filter, which is this nice Marla one. So then the centre part of the filter, which shouldn't really get stuck in here, you should pull it out from this if it gets stuck. So you can pop this old one into the box, pop that back in there where it belongs, like that, and then pop our new filter in. Which way up? That way, like that. That's our new filter. We just need to put the new O-ring on here and then we'll be ready to go. So I'm just going to use my little pick to pull out the seal. Like that, making sure we remember which groove the seal goes in. Pop it on. Lube that up with a bit of oil that's on there already, and then this can get screwed back into position. To make sure it's engaging the threads nicely. And obviously this ratchet is way overkill for what we actually need to do in terms of tightening this up, so we're really careful not to over tighten this, as it's only 27 Newton meters that's required in total. So we'll feel as that seal starts to compress, and then once it gets to the bottom of the threads, just give it like a little nip, and that'll basically be all we need. Right, so that's at the bottom of the threads now. I'm just going to give it the slightest nip, like that, and that's all we need. So old oil is out, time for new oil in. Got a little funnel there, I'll grab one of these. Valvoline Syn Powers. We'll start chucking it in. So obviously about 9.5 litres total to go in. So the first jug we can just put in completely without worrying about it, without checking. So basically this is it. In goes that lovely fresh 5W30. So yeah, there's our first 5 litres done. Second one, I'm going to put around 8.5 in for the first check, and then that should be enough to start it up. And then we can check using the onboard display on the dashboard what the level says, because it's a lot easier to put more in than it is to take them out if you put too much in. How many litres is this? 5 litres. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's 5? Must be at the top. So 4. So I put in 1, 2, nearly 3. So I'll just put a touch more in. Right. So that's about 8.5 litres that's gone in there. What we'll do now is start it up, check the levels, and then add any more if we need it. But that should be about bang on from what I've done in the past, so let's give it a check. Got it. Oh, is that recording? So we go off to retrieve the oil suction cap from down the side of the engine. Luckily it didn't go all the way down to the sump, to the under tray. I can pop this back into place before we start her up. There we go. Right. Okay, so we're going to start it up now. Sounds lovely and smooth, as always. So we'll let that pump around, get the oil around the oil filter for a few minutes. Well, a couple of minutes will be plenty. You always come and have a look around the oil filter, make sure it's sat down properly and not leaking. Listen for any strange noises, but at the moment it's sounding exactly how a TDV8 should. And then what we'll do is we'll turn it on. Whoa! Okay, you went a bit too far for the gimbal.
Okay.
Double click it. Oh, it's jammed, I think.
Okay, right, go back to walking.
And then we'll switch it off again. And then you have to wait for sort of 10-15 minutes for oil level to settle, and then you can take a reading off the dashboard, and I'll show you how we're going to do that in a minute. So to check the oil level on the Range Rover, obviously we don't have a dipstick, so what we're going to do is use the digital dash, which has a oil level sensor in the sump on the Range Rover, so we can do it electronically. I'd obviously much prefer an actual dipstick, but it's not available, unfortunately. So to do this, basically ignition on, so press the button with the key in the car, put your foot off the brake pedal so it doesn't start up. Have the bonnet open and the driver's door open. Wait until all these messages clear off the dash. Okay, clear, 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 clear. And then we're going to go press the right button on the dashboard, down into service menu, onto oil level display, and it's probably going to say, oh, it's actually saying oil level OK now. So that's because there's a 15-minute timer. After you stop the engine, it won't let you check it until the engine's sat for 15 minutes. So, but if it doesn't do that, all you've got to do is press the cruise control cancel button twice, and then this will revert to an oil level display. So you'll get a reading just by pressing that cancel button twice. So a little tip there. So this is saying it's bang in the middle, so we're halfway up the gauge, engine level, oil level OK. So ideally I'd like to have it 1 or 2 bars above the middle one there, so not quite at the max, but just a little bit above middle. So what I'll probably do is probably put half a litre extra oil in there, maybe not even that, 1/4 litre, just to top it up a little bit and make sure we've got a nice safe oil level. So yeah, happy days, that's pretty much done. So that's the oil change pretty much wrapped up. It's just a bit of tidying up to do now, put the engine cover back on again. I'm not going to do a diesel filter because that was done fairly recently in the last big service video. You guys can click a link up here if you haven't seen that already. And I'm going to throw a new air filter, or 2 new air filters in this just now as well. I'm not going to show you guys that because I've already showed you that already. But yeah, what was that? 15-20 minutes for a complete oil change. I didn't have to get down on the ground once because of the pump, and the only really kind of messy bit is doing the oil filter, but yeah, really not that bad. And now the L322's big 4.4 TDV8 is ready to go for another 8 to 10,000 miles, probably 8, as I like to keep the oil nice and fresh in it. So one more thing I'm going to quickly do before we end the video is fire up the IID tool on my phone. We'll plug the IID tool in, and then we're going to reset the service interval on the Range Rover so it doesn't tell me it needs servicing for another 8,000 miles or so. I'll grab the IID tool, which always lives in the Range Rover's cubby box at all times. Plug him in. So once we get into the IID tool, we're going to head into service and test menu, onto the instrument pack, IPC, and then we've got an option here called service interval reset. So we'll head into that, proceed with this routine. And operation succeeded. The Range Rover is now good to go for another 8 to 10,000 miles, as I said. So yeah, easy as that. So all we've got to do now is deal with the old oil we've got in this this suction pump here, and it's pretty easy to deal with. Pull out the little plunger, get this thing out of the way, and then we'll use our funnel, make sure I don't get too much on the gravel, and start tipping away. And this basically means the whole process of changing the oil on the Range Rover is kind of as clean as it possibly can be. If you weren't an absolute heathen like me, you'd probably even put gloves on so your hands didn't get oily, but ain't nobody got time for that. So there we go, there's our 8.5 to 9 litres back out again. This car's pretty good, doesn't seem to leak any or burn any oil over the course of an oil change, so that's always a good sign. So yeah, like I said guys, this video was sponsored by Autodoc, which I'm really grateful for. I've actually been using Autodoc pretty much since I got to Ireland because they have such an amazing range of parts and amazing prices actually as well. And basically for every part you can think of on any car you can think of, more or less, they'll have more than one supplier, so they'll have lots of options from different manufacturers, ranging from really cheap stuff all the way up to the real proper OEM Brembo brakes that we've got here. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, Autodoc has sponsored 3 videos for me in total. So the next one we're going to be doing is these Brembo brakes. We're going to do all new discs and pads all the way around on the Range Rover, as it's more than overdue for those. And we've gone for Brembo discs and pads all round, and all this stuff's available from Autodoc at a really good price. So I highly recommend you guys check them out. They dispatch both to Ireland and the UK and all over Europe as well. Particularly useful if you're in Ireland because we haven't got the use of all those suppliers that are in the UK now post-Brexit. So Autodoc, fabulous service to have for any Land Rover owners that are in Ireland. As I said, I used them before I was even talking about them with sponsorship. They've always had a really good service for me, and I've always got loads of service stuff and parts for the Range Rover from them over the last couple of years. So yeah, can't recommend them enough. But anyway guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and please leave a like if you did. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys again next time.